I've been getting a lot of questions lately about what it actually takes to be an advertiser, what the mindset of an advertiser is, what common mistakes people make. And so in this video, I wanted to break down the three key pillars of an advertiser that I see as being overlooked more often than not, especially if you come from an organic based business. And so we're going to cover the importance of understanding risk, the importance of understanding your data, and then the importance of abundance. And this last one is arguably the most important part of this entire video because it dictates how well your marketing copy performs. But before we get into that, let's start with risk. Now, the number one thing, and I talk about this all the time on the channel, is advertising at the end of the day is a sophisticated form of gambling. And so you'll see me, I think I've drawn this diagram a couple of times now. At the end of the day, all you're doing when you advertise is you're handing money to the casino and hoping that you get money back. That's what you're doing. You are assuming a certain amount of risk in your advertising efforts in hope of seeing a return on your ad spend. And if you don't know how to count cards, or you don't know the basics of advertising, you don't know your data, which again, we'll get into the data part here soon, but you don't know the data, you don't know how to read your data, and you're trusting somebody blindly to run the ads for you, you're essentially walking into the casino and going, here you go, take my money. I hope I get a return on my ad spend. Oh, I got some money back. Cool. Take some more. Oh, why didn't that work? I don't know. Take some more. We'll see. You're just throwing money at stuff, gambling. And again, that's why data is so important. But you do need to understand that you are assuming a certain level of risk when you walk in. You say, here's Zuck, here's some money. Go make it happen for me. And so that is arguably the most important part, is understanding risk and understanding risk relative to where you're at. So if you are running ads for the first time, the very first time, and you don't have a big bankroll to put behind your paid ads, Godspeed, because you are going to be an emotional train wreck if you really try to scale this thing up. Because again, you don't have something that allows you to take on risk. And this bleeds into that third one of abundance. There is a risk element to this. You have to be okay with losing your money. It's like when you walk into a casino, you have to know that the money you're walking in there with, you could walk out of without any of it. What you have to do is reframe risk, because in advertising, you're allowed to count cards. You're allowed to get better. You're allowed to cheat the system by knowing what you're doing. You're not going to get penalized because Mark Zuckerberg and the people over at Meta, they want you to stay on their advertising platform. That's how they make all their money. And so if you can get it right, everybody wins. So you need to reframe risk when it comes to advertising as, yes, I have no data on what I'm doing. So yes, I'm assuming risk. But two, if I can get this right and I'm really calculated about how I approach the risk taking, it's not going to be too stressful on me and we'll see a win at the end of the day. And so mastering your perspective of risk around advertising is so important. And this brings me to number two, which allows you to not feel the risk as much, which is understanding data. Now, data is the backbone of paid advertising. Without data, you don't know how to make decisions. You don't know what's working. You don't know what's not working. You don't know what to scale into. Data is the holy grail of paid advertising. It is so funny. I studied finance in college. That's what I got my degree in. Here I am as a marketer. Yet I use numbers more in this, and I understand numbers better as an advertiser than I ever did in finance. And the best part is in advertising, it's all simple. It's all just simple arithmetic. You need to see if your CPM rises, how does that affect your ROAS? If your close rate drops, how does that affect your ROAS? That's it, because all you're doing at the end of the day with paid ads is when you make a change, you're seeing how it affects the rest of your numbers. And if it's good, great. If it's not good, no, change it, go back. That's it. And here's my favorite part about this, is all advertising is at the end of the day is a science experiment. Remember growing up in grade school, if you paid attention in class, I kind of did, not really, but growing up when you would learn about science, about how you'd make a hypothesis and then you would test the hypothesis and see what happened. The same thing is true of paid ads. All we're doing is we're testing one thing at a time. We're seeing how it affects the funnel. And if it works, great, double down on it. If it doesn't work, go back to what you're doing. Go back to the control. And so all you're doing with paid ads is you have a control, which is what you're currently running, and you have a variant. And you're going to see, does the control perform better or does the variant? If the variant does, cool. This becomes the new control. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And you only know it's working because you have the data to back that the decision made sense. That's all we're doing from a data perspective. Again, it's not super complicated. If you're curious what all the numbers you should be tracking and all that intricate stuff, you could book a call. There's a link. You speak to myself or a member team. We can run through all of this. All you're doing is once you understand the risk, then you just treat the entire process as a science experiment. And you just change one thing at a time. See what it does. If it works, great. If it doesn't, revert back, test a new thing, and just keep repeating. Keep repeating. So for example, let's say the problem is CPM. I may test first more creatives. If that works, awesome. Double down, just keep pumping out more creatives. I just realized I need a higher creative volume. If that doesn't work, then maybe I test the messaging. Maybe I test the formats. The key here though, is I'm testing one thing at a time. I'm not going in and saying I have high CPMs. Let me launch more creatives with a bunch of different messaging and a bunch of different formats. If you're at higher levels of spend, you can stomach this because the amount you're putting in to each test is enough to justify it. But if you're at lower levels of spend, below 30K a month in ad spend, just pick one thing and that's all you're going to test because it allows you to get the data a lot faster. So again, if I have high CPMs, let me just try more creatives to start. Nothing else, just more. If it still doesn't work, let me try different messaging. Let me try going a little broader. See how that affects lead quality. Again, and then let's test formats, but we're testing one thing at a time. And that's all you're doing. So if we go back to the risk portion of the data portion is let's say the constraint is CPM, I'm just going to test over and over and over until I solve the CPM problem. And then let's say the next one is show rate. I'm just going to test over and over and over until the show rate problem is solved. And I'll repeat this over and over and over for every aspect of the funnel until all of a sudden, boom, I'm at a 3x. Let's start throwing more money at it and just continue to solve problems as they come up. And that's it. You're just rinsing and repeating. It's not that complicated. And this brings me to the last part of the mindset. And it's this idea of abundance. It has two impacts on you and your advertising journey. Number one, it often will skew your decision making in terms of who you speak to in your marketing copy. But number two, it causes you to behave a lot more sporadically when you are spending money without a return. So let's start with the messaging side. If I do not come at my marketing efforts with a undertone of abundance, what ends up happening is I try to speak to everybody in my market. Let's say I specialize in speaking to businesses that are doing 100K a month, looking to scale into paid ads. There is no point in me speaking to anybody that does less than 100K a month, because two things happen. Number one, I start bringing in leads I don't even want to bring in the first place because I'm scared that there's not enough of these guys. But then these guys also go, oh, you're speaking to 50K a month businesses. That's not a problem I deal with. I guess this isn't for me. And so when you operate out of scarcity in your messaging, you end up excluding the people you want and including the people you don't want because you're scared, because you don't want to lose out. There is more than enough. There are very niche markets where, yes, the TAMs are smaller, and that's a whole nother conversation. But generally speaking, you cannot operate out of scarcity when you write your marketing messaging because you try to catch too many people at once, especially in the beginning. Unless you're spending $5 million a month on paid ads, which I don't even know anybody that does that, but let's say you are, that's where you actually have to open up the market into people who you may not want to get initially, but it's all you can do. If you run a Super Bowl ad, you're not pinpointing like, hey, are you a business owner that does this watching the Super Bowl? Like, that's not how that works. So unless you're at absurd levels of spend, one, this video isn't for you. So see ya, example A of what I mean by abundance. But two, if you are in that pocket, you're a business owner doing 100K and you're looking to spend on ads, or maybe you're just looking to launch on paid ads right away and you're willing to spend that 30K a month. You can't try to speak to everybody because it doesn't work. You have to speak to who you're supposed to be with, who you're supposed to sell to. So that's the first part with abundance, is you cannot let it infect your messaging. The second part to this is if you operate out of scarcity on the ad side, on the spending side, the actual physical risk component, you put yourself in a really, really bad spot because it causes you to act sporadically. I want you to think about any time you've had fear of loss enter into your life, whether it was a relationship, whether it was something to do with family or friends, whether it had to do with a job you may have worked or a client you had at one point, where you didn't have enough abundance in that area of life. And so you really felt the fear of loss. What did that cause you to do? Act out of turn. I know I've done this in relationships. I know I've done this in certain friend situations. I've done this in business plenty of times. It's not something that immediately just disappears, but you have to train your brain to get out of this behavior. Because if I'm constantly operating from a point of, I don't want to lose this, you turn into have you ever seen, see how well I can draw him, Gollum dude in Lord of the Rings that hunches over and is trying to protect his little ring? You know how crazy and weird that dude got? All because he was so scared of losing his ring. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be that guy because you end up looking at this little freaking freak. Doesn't make any sense. All of your focus needs to be on an abundance mindset because it allows you to take risks, make decisions without that fear of loss, limiting your emotional sporadicness, and allows you to calm down. And if you're curious what this looks like and how we treat this and a little more in depth what this may look like for your business, there's a link below. You can book a call with myself or a member of the team, learn a little bit more about how we can help you in your advertising journey. If you like content like this, if you like this video, give the video a like, comment what you want to see next, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next one.